Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and welcome to the Ultra League Weather Cup. This is a 2500 CP format where only Fire, Water, Ice, and Rock type Pokemon are eligible. And a lot of the top meta in this cup is very XL heavy, requires a lot of XL candies. So for today's video, I wanted to test out a budget team with no XL Pokemon that can still do quite well. The team features Kyurem and Kingdra in the back, Double Dragon, and they are incredibly powerful in the Weather Cup meta. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and check out Double Dragons in action in the Weather Cup. Hopping to the first match, and we see mirror leads Empoleon versus Empoleon. I'm going to stay in this lead to start, but I will eventually need to pivot out to check and see if they have any additional counters to Dragon in the back. They're going to be firing off a Hydro Cannon, I'm going to tank it and return a fire with a Hydro of my own. I do run a very high rank Empoleon, I'm likely to lose CMP here, so instead of risking it, I'm actually going to switch into Kingdra to catch the Hydro Cannon where it is going to be double resisted. That does absolutely nothing, and Kingdra will be met with Aurorus. Kingdra farming up, making it to the Octazooka and winning CMP over the Aurorus here. This will hit for super effective damage. Aurorus lets it through, and I do get the Octazooka debuff. That is quite nice. Meteor Beam now not going to KO. Aurorus getting quite low on HP, and they're forced to fire off another charge move. That is quite nice. Weather Ball is going to be lethal. I can send in Empoleon, and I have a big energy lead over my opponent. They send in their own Empoleon. I'm going for the Hydro Cannon here. This will be lethal. Opponent is going to let that through. In the back, they have a Abomasnow, and honestly, this is a bit scary. I am going to be firing off the Drill Peck here. This would hit for super effective damage, and I'm just going to stay in here because they are not going to be able to fast move me down. They're going to be forced to go for a Weather Ball, so I'm just going to make them waste their energy, and then I can send in Kyurem. Due to Kyurem's unique typing, I only take neutral damage from the Weather Balls, which is quite nice. Now, Kyurem is going to apply a lot of pressure in terms of Dragon Breath, and I'm shielding the first two moves here, because I know if I can fire off this Glaciate, I'm going to be able to debuff them so their future moves do even less. And that's part of what makes Kyurem an incredibly powerful pick, as now any future charge moves are going to be doing less damage than they would before. So even though they can make it to back-to-back Weather Balls here, Weather Ball number 1 and Weather Ball number 2, thanks to that clutch debuff from Glaciate, that will not KO. Kyurem gets to the Dragon Claw, and that will be game over, as Dragon Claw easily lethal. Down goes Abomasnow, and that's a good game. Picking up a terrible lead in the next match, Empoleon into XL Lantern. I'm going to save switch into Kingdra, which is the softer of my two counters in the back, as Kingdra does take neutral from Electric. They're going to fire off the Thunderbolt. That does quite a bit of damage, and now my opponent is going to send in a Alolan Sandslash. I definitely needed to bait out the Sandslash, as that would absolutely wall Kyurem. I go for the Octazooka. Unfortunately, no debuff to be seen. Opponent overfarms too much and plays to a CMP tie that they do not win. Octazooka connects, again going 0 for 2 on debuffs. Very unfortunate. They will fire off the Ice Punch, and now I'm going to send in Empoleon to just fully commit to the farm down. I'm not going to shield. I know that they have a Lantern waiting for my Empoleon. Sandslash is a bit of a core breaker for this team. Empoleon can do decently, but the Bulldoze definitely hurts. Thankfully, they do not make a second Bulldoze. It is just the Ice Punch, and I'm going to look to switch into Kyurem here. Opponent is going to be sending back in the Lantern, and in comes Kyurem. These Dragon Breaths chunking away at the Lantern's HP. Lantern will be hit with the Dragon Claw. That's going to get them low. They fire off a charge move. I still don't know what they have in the back, so I decide to preserve some HP. They go for the Surf. In the back, they have Jellicent, and I definitely wish that I had saved the shield. As with two shields, Kyurem straight up wins this. Down a shield, this can get a bit uncomfortable. My opponent is going to let the first Dragon Claw through, and honestly that's quite nice for me, as Kyurem is just incredibly oppressive with the Dragon Breath. Dragon Breaths shredding through the Jellicent. I do have a move on Empoleon. Let's go for a play. I farm up, switch, hit the Drill Peck. Is this the CMP sack swap? Drill Peck onto the Jellicent. Yes, it is. Not only did we win CMP, but we catch the Shadow Ball onto Empoleon. Back in comes Kyurem. This is only a Surf, and I know I do survive it. So I'm just going to commit to the farm down here. If they switch into the Lantern, which they do, I can get rid of the Lantern with the Dragon Claw, and Kyurem, just so deadly in the end game, takes down the Jellicent and secures the win. The tough leads continue in the next match. Empoleon into Credilli. I save switch into Kyurem. My opponent is staying in this matchup, which is very good news for me, as Kyurem does quite well in this matchup. My opponent goes for the Stone Edge, and I commit the shield. I'm going to return fire with the Glaciate. Not only will this hit for big super effective damage, but I will get the debuff as well. My opponent is going to commit the shield. They are at another Stone Edge. Stone Edge, now that it's debuffed, is not going to be lethal, so I will be able to tank that. I'm going to farm up, fire off the Dragon Claw, just so I can ensure that I get rid of the Credilli. Dragon Claw is going to KO, and now we'll have to see what do they have in the back. They send in Lantern. Lantern will be met with the Dragon Claw. Lantern is going to try and farm down. Can I make another Dragon Claw here? I barely cannot, and that's honestly a bit uncomfortable. I'm going to send in Kingdra. They're going for the Thunderbolt. As we know, this hits for neutral and deals some solid damage. In the back, they have Tentacruel and I have Empoleon. Empoleon, a very nice wall to Tentacruel. They're accidentally throwing alignment, giving them a free poison jab, which is definitely not ideal. My opponent is going to return fire on good timing, and all moves they throw here will be resisted. They go for the Acid Spray. I'm just going to continue to farm up with Empoleon. They're going for another move, and I'm just going to let this through. They fire off the Scald. That will do some sizable damage, and here I make a fatal mistake. I overfarmed too much. I lost count. I thought it was just an Acid Spray. It's a Scald, and at this point, unfortunately, by just not throwing my move, this game is now over. They're just going straight for the Acid Spray here, and I can no-shield that, but I'm just going to get sparked down by the Lantern. I can go for the Octazooka, but Octazooka is just not going to do enough for me here. It doesn't even get the debuff either, and I get farmed down. We see a familiar lead in the next match, Empoleon into Lantern. Not a good spot to be in, so I will immediately save switch into Kingdra, and my opponent responds with Abomasnow. Now this is honestly not a bad matchup for Kingdra. I'm only hitting for neutral, but I'm also only taking neutral damage. They fire off the Weather Ball, I'm able to tank that, and now I can return fire with the Outrage. Outrage hits like an absolute truck from Kingdra, forcing the opponent to go down a shield. And that's perfectly fine by me. At this point, I'm just going to let the Kingdra go. Kingdra was able to bait out the Abomasnow and get a shield advantage for Kyurem in the endgame, and honestly, that's all that I need. I am able to make it to the Octazooka. Let's test the opponent's counting. Opponent is correct on their counts, and they're going to no-shield since they knew it was not enough for the Outrage. I send in Empoleon, they fire off the Energy Ball, I tank that, and now I get the full farm down, and I'm looking to pivot into Kyurem. In the back, opponent is running Barbaracle, a pretty spicy pick, but honestly, a pick that we should see a decent amount in this meta. Barbaracle, of course, does have access to Cross Chop, which would hit for super effective damage, but Barbaracle has some serious issues. It is getting absolutely shredded by Dragon Breath. Barbaracle is firing off another charge move here. I will commit the shield. It's another Cross Chop. This is going to be close. I go for another Dragon Claw. Opponent has to shield this as they need to get damage off onto the Kyurem. It's a raise. Kyurem gets the farm down, and that should be game over as Lantern just cannot do enough damage to Kyurem here. They go for the Thunderbolt. Kyurem able to withstand that damage and return fire with a barrage of Dragon Claws. Dragon Claw number 1 is going to connect. Kyurem farming up, making it to Dragon Claw number 2. This will be getting them low, and now I can honestly just send in Empoleon and force them to throw. Opponent does not throw, and I'm able to make it to a move on Empoleon. Empoleon flipping the script, taking down the Lantern, and securing the win. Picking up a bit of an interesting lead in the next match, Empoleon going up against Abomasnow. Abomasnow does seem to have the type advantage on paper, but Empoleon can put up quite a fight here. They can fire off the Energy Ball, but it does only hit for neutral, so I am able to tank the Energy Ball and then return fire with a Drill Peck. Drill Peck will hit for super effective damage, and once I get some chip damage or a shield, then I can save switch out of here. I send in Kingdra. I tank whatever they throw here, as long as they're not running Outrage, but almost no one runs Outrage. They go Energy Ball, and now they send in Lantern. Lantern will be met with the Outrage. XL Lantern from this health range can tank an Outrage, but Outrage is still going to hurt. Outrage is going to get the Lantern low. At this point, I'm just going to let the Kingdra go. Opponent baits with a Surf, anticipating a shield, but I did not want to make a play for switch. Instead, I'm more than happy to let the Kingdra go and instead get farm on Kyurem. Kyurem gets the farm down. We'll have to see what does the opponent want to send in. That Abomasnow is very low. They send in Jellicent. and their Jellicent is about to be in a world of hurt because it's in the 2 shield and it's significantly behind on energy. Kyurem is going to be shielding everything here, and Jellicent is already into the yellow health. Jellicent baits with a Surf, which is definitely not ideal, but I will get the catch onto Empoleon. Opponent baited again with a Surf. In comes Abomasnow. Abomasnow is barely going to make a move with a sliver of HP remaining. It's just a Weather Ball. Weather Ball will not KO. In comes the Jelly. Jelly looking to get some farm as Empoleon will grab a shield with Drill Peck. They still have a shield remaining, and Kyurem has back-to-back Dragon Claws loaded, so this game will be finished. Dragon Claw number 1 gets the shield, and Dragon Claw number 2 is thrown on alignment, but it's not going to matter. It will be lethal, and that is a good game. Moving into the next match, picking up a slightly negative lead, Empoleon into Swampert. I throw 1 Waterfall, save switch into Kyurem. My opponent's staying in here. They build up to the Earthquake, so I will respect it with a shield. They do full send the Earthquake, and then they send in a Alolan Sandslash. So they had a very good counter to Kyurem, but chose to stay in with Swampert to grab a shield advantage as well. So my opponent has done a very good job in this matchup of generating an advantage for themselves, and it's going to be very difficult to overcome. I can fire off Dragon Claw after Dragon Claw, but it just does not do a lot of damage. And even if I take switch, I would have to give up both shields to do so, and that is not a winning recipe considering that they have a Swampert in the back, so I'm going to have to get a bit creative here. I fire off the Dragon Claw, Switch Clock is coming up soon, so I'm going to send back in Empoleon. They can Bulldoze me here, but I know that a Bulldoze is not going to be enough to KO. Bulldoze is going to connect, back in comes Swampert. I'm able to make it to the Hydro Cannon since I do have a bit of an energy lead. Hydro Cannon is going to get a shield from the Swampert. Swampert continuing to farm, and they're going to fire off the Hydro here. I'm now going to send in Kingdra and look to fully farm down. I bring in Kingdra. Opponent thought I was bringing in Kyurem, and they blind Hydro Cannon. That is quite nice for me, and now I can just fully commit to the farm down here. With this sliver of HP remaining, they make another Hydro. It is double resisted, but all damage adds up, and in the back, they have a Kyurem of their own, and unfortunately, this is going to be game over. I just don't have enough HP to win this game. I get a shield, hoping for a debuff, but there's no debuff to save me, and my opponent farms down. Hopping into the final match, and we end the video where we began it, in an Empoleon mirror. I'm going to stay in this lead matchup as I did before, but I will be looking to try and make a catch onto Kingdra later on. I'm going to be firing off the Hydro Cannon, that's going to connect. Opponent continues to farm. I go for the catch onto Kingdra, but my opponent actually paused there to watch for the catch. Great patience by my opponent, and now they're going to send in Abomasnow. Abomasnow is going to fire off the Weather Ball into Kingdra. Kingdra, no baits, going straight for the Outrage here, looking for the one-shot. Outrage, massive damage. Opponent makes another Weather Ball, but this is not going to be enough to KO, and they are too low of HP, so I actually get to take switch advantage here. We'll have to see what do they have in the back, or do they send in the Empoleon. Empoleon has so much energy, they're going to send in Aurorus. Aurorus looking for the farm down, but Kingdra says no. Kingdra able to make it to the Octazooka. Octazooka gets the shield. I send in Empoleon, and my opponent is going to bring in their own. I'm going to let this go. Hydro Cannon, of course, is going to be resisted, and now I can bring in Kyurem. Kyurem will be able to tank whatever the Empoleon throws. They go for the Drill Peck and get the full farm down. This way, I do leave with quite a bit of energy. In comes the Aurorus. They're looking to farm, and I'm looking to fire off these Dragon Claws. Dragon Claw is going to connect onto the Aurorus, farming up to another Dragon Claw, but I fall just short. Aurorus fires off the Weather Ball. That is not quite going to do it, and with 1 HP remaining, I'm able to fire off the Dragon Claw. That gets the shield. In comes Empoleon, and I will commit the shield as Meteor Beam, even though it's resisted, would do quite a lot of damage. I do have the Hydro ready. This will be the fatal blow, taking down Aurorus and securing the win. All in all, the Ultra League Weather Cup does look like a very interesting meta. I will caution, a lot of the top picks do tend to be XL Pokemon, so if you don't necessarily have a lot of those XL Pokemon built, this cup could prove to be a bit difficult. However, that's why I do want to recommend some non-XL options like Kingdra and Kyurem, as both of these dragons can do exceedingly well against the absolute onslaught of XL Pokemon that you're probably going to see. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is absolutely incredible. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.